There's a plant growing in the cracks of Highway 40 right now that produces 400 pounds of carbohydrates every year. It survives winters that drop to 30 below zero. It requires no fertilizer, no replanting, and no care beyond occasional harvest. One plant, established once, feeds a family for 20 years. Native Americans cultivated it for 5,000 years. Lewis and Clark's expedition survived on it crossing the Dakotas. By the 1940s, the USDA recommended it in Victory Garden guides. By 1983, that same agency listed it as a potentially invasive species, requiring eradication in multiple states. Today, county road crews spray it with herbicides. Landscaping companies poison it on site. Farmers are fined for harboring it. It's called a noxious weed in Colorado and Wyoming, illegal to transport across state lines. The question isn't why it disappeared. The question is who profits from it staying invisible. You've driven past it 1,000 times without noticing. November, Highway 40 shoulder, just outside Columbia, Missouri. Sunflower-like stalks, 10 feet tall in summer, now dying back to brown skeletons. Underneath, invisible from the road, tuberous roots spiral through the soil, knobby, ginger-colored, clustered like arthritic knuckles. A county extension agent calls them a persistent problem. His spray schedule targets them 3 times annually: spring emergence, midsummer regrowth, fall cleanup before frost. Cost to the department, $380 per mile of right-of-way. The chemical cocktail rotates, glyphosate, dicamba, 2,4-D, because the roots survive single applications and regenerate from fragments. Production capacity? 3 to 6 tons of edible tubers per acre, with 0 fertilizer input. Temperature tolerance? Survives to -30 Fahrenheit, resumes growth when soil thaws. The extension agent's report doesn't mention any of that. It classifies them under aggressive, perennials requiring persistent control. But here's what the spray schedule doesn't mention. The botanical name is Helianthus tuberosus. The botanical name is Helianthus tuberosus. Archaeologists place its cultivation at 3000 BCE, across what's now the eastern United States and southern Canada. The common name is a linguistic accident, Jerusalem, corrupted from girasole, the Italian word for sunflower, which the plant resembles. Artichoke was a marketing attempt by French settlers who thought the flavor profile matched globe artichokes. It doesn't. The Iroquois called it sunroot and harvested it after the first hard frost, when cold temperatures convert the inulin starches into sweeter compounds. In 1605, Samuel de Champlain documented it sustaining indigenous communities through winter in what's now Quebec, noting that villages stored massive quantities in underground pits. Lewis and Clark's journals mention it repeatedly during their 1804 crossing of the Dakotas. Expedition members traded with Mandan villages for supplies of the root, which kept without refrigeration for months. Then came 1840, and the name, that replaced it. Nutritionally, it's almost identical to potatoes on paper: 2 grams of protein per 100 grams, 17 grams of carbohydrates. But the carbohydrate composition is completely different. Potatoes store energy as starch. Sunchokes store it as inulin, a prebiotic fiber that human enzymes can't break down, but gut bacteria ferment into short-chain fatty acids. Glycemic index, 50 compared to 85 for russet potatoes. Blood sugar impact, minimal. Storage capacity, 2 to 4 months in a cool cellar without refrigeration, compared to potatoes' tendency to sprout and rot. In the 1920s, University of Michigan Medical School published clinical recommendations for diabetic patients to substitute sunchokes for potatoes. The 1943 USDA Victory Garden Guide featured them prominently, with planting instructions and harvest timing. The 1944 edition included recipes. The 1960 edition mentioned them once, in passing, under specialty crops. By 1965, they were gone from the guide entirely. By 1960, it had vanished from those same guides. The 1840s Irish potato famine created a European obsession with reliable tuber crops. Sunchokes were positioned as a famine relief alternative: higher yield, easier cultivation, better storage. The problem appeared almost immediately. Populations without generations of dietary adaptation to inulin experienced severe gastrointestinal distress, cramping, bloating, flatulence. European agricultural press ridiculed it mercilessly. Potatoes, by contrast, caused no such issues. Within 2 decades, potatoes became the safe choice, the standard. American agriculture followed the European model. Between 1850 and 1900, sunchokes disappeared from commercial seed catalogs. Burpee carried them through the 1920s, dropped them from prominent placement by the 1950s, removed them entirely by 1975. A 1973 internal memo, archived at the Smithsonian's Agricultural History Collection, cited low commercial viability and limited consumer demand. But the economic reason goes deeper. Sunchokes reproduce in 2 ways, sexually through seeds and vegetatively through tuber division. Any fragment of root left in soil regenerates into a full plant. This makes them impossible to patent under the Plant Patent Act of 1930, which requires a sexual reproduction through grafting or cutting, not through tubers that naturally fragment. Hybrid potatoes, by contrast, can be patented. Seed companies consolidated through the 1960s, prioritizing crops that required annual purchase. Perennial crops present a fundamental business problem. Customers buy once, harvest for decades. No repeat sales, no dependency, no market control. Burpee's 1973 memo is explicit about the calculation. Perennial vegetables offer limited commercial opportunity compared to annual varieties requiring yearly seed purchase. Then the herbicide industry found it. Roundup entered the agricultural market in 1974, marketed by Monsanto as a broad-spectrum herbicide effective against perennial weeds. Sunchokes became a test case for the product's persistence claims. The plant spreads through underground tubers, sending up new shoots from fragments. Glyphosate kills the visible growth, but rarely penetrates deep enough to eliminate the root system entirely. The plant regrows within weeks. By 1983, the USDA began listing it as potentially invasive in agricultural contexts, particularly in states transitioning to industrial corn and soybean monocultures. Colorado and Wyoming added it to state noxious weed lists, making cultivation without permits illegal, and transport across state lines a finable offense. The economic context is agricultural standardization. Crops that spread uncontrollably don't fit mechanized farming systems designed around annuals planted in rows. In 2008, a Montana farmer was fined $500 for harboring invasive species after sunchokes established in a field border. The same plant that fed Lewis and Clark is now illegal to transport. By the 1980s, state agricultural extension offices published detailed eradication protocols. Kansas State's 1987 bulletin, Persistent Control Methods for Jerusalem Artichoke, recommended repeated applications of 2.4-D and dicamba across 3 growing seasons, noting that single treatments are ineffective due to extensive tuber systems and rapid regeneration capacity. Cost estimates ranged from $200 to $400 per acre annually for chemical control. The global market for perennial weed management herbicides reached $8 billion by 2010, with sunchokes frequently cited in product marketing materials as an example of aggressive perennials requiring specialized chemical solutions. Agrochemical companies distributed technical guides to county road departments and landscaping contractors, emphasizing the plant's invasive nature and resistance to standard treatments. Visual documentation from highway maintenance records shows targeted spraying along roadsides where sunchokes established naturally, but some farmers noticed something. The 1990s farmers' market movement created renewed interest in heirloom crops. Sunchokes reappeared, marketed as a gourmet vegetable at $4 to $6 per pound, roughly triple the price of conventional potatoes. In 1994, Chef Alice Waters featured them at Chez Panisse in Berkeley, preparing them roasted with herbs. Food media coverage followed, describing them as a forgotten native ingredient with nutty, earthy flavor. Whole Foods began stocking them sporadically in select locations. The problem was infrastructure. No established commercial supply chain existed. Distribution was irregular. Availability was seasonal and unpredictable. Organic farmers reported visits from county agricultural inspectors warning about potential classification as invasive species and advising against commercial cultivation. In 2003, an Oregon farmer received a citation for selling unapproved agricultural products at a farmer's market after a complaint from a neighboring conventional grower. The regulatory trap was already set. The FDA classifies sunchokes as a specialty crop, which excludes them from commodity crop subsidies. The USDA maintains no grading standards for them, unlike potatoes, which have detailed federal grading classifications, affecting wholesale pricing and retail availability. Interstate commerce becomes complicated. Several states require phytosanitary certificates for tuber transport, treating them similarly to potentially invasive ornamental bulbs. Major retailers avoid products with complex compliance requirements. The infrastructure cost of navigating state-by-state regulations outweighs profit margins on low-volume specialty items. Meanwhile, potatoes receive approximately $200 million in annual subsidies through various federal agricultural programs. The 2003 Farm Bill's specialty crop provisions listed dozens of fruits and vegetables eligible for research funding and market development support. Sunchokes weren't included. The infrastructure simply wasn't built for it. By the 2000s, pharmaceutical and supplement companies had identified inulin as a marketable prebiotic fiber. Extraction processes were developed and patented. Inulin supplements appeared in health stores at $25 to $35 per bottle, marketed for digestive health and blood sugar management. The same compound exists freely in sunchokes at approximately 16 grams per 100 grams of raw tuber, roughly $2 per pound at farmers' market prices, if you can find them. Multiple companies filed patents for industrial inulin extraction methods using chicory root and sunchoke as source materials. The whole plant, however, remains unpatentable and therefore unmarketable at scale. A 2010 study published in the Journal of Diabetes Research confirmed significant blood sugar regulation benefits in subjects consuming sunchoke-derived inulin. Media coverage was minimal. Supplement industry marketing budgets dominated consumer messaging. They sell what they extract. The plant stays forgotten. The economic logic is straightforward. A perennial crop that reproduces freely threatens multiple revenue streams. Annual seed sales represent a $50 billion global industry. Sunchokes require one-time planting and provide 2 decades of harvests with no seed repurchase. Synthetic fertilizers depend on crops requiring supplemental nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Sunchokes thrive in poor soil with minimal inputs. Herbicide markets rely on annual weeds and crops susceptible to chemical control. Sunchokes resist standard treatments and regenerate from root fragments. Supplement companies extract and patent inulin while the source plant remains unpatented. The potato industry generates $4 billion annually in the United States alone, supported by replanting requirements, fertilizer dependency, and monoculture compatibility. Sunchokes offer one-time planting, indefinite harvest, and aggressive spreading without farmer intervention. No conspiracy is required, just rational market. Behavior protecting established revenue models. The system isn't hiding it. The system can't profit from it. It still grows wild across North America. Roadsides, abandoned lots, field margins, suburban yards. State departments of transportation spend millions annually on eradication programs, targeting it during routine vegetation management. Farmers markets carry it sporadically, priced at $4 to $6 per pound when available. Supply depends on small-scale growers willing to navigate regulatory ambiguity. Home gardeners plant it once and harvest perpetually, often discovering its aggressive spreading habit makes containment the primary challenge. Online gardening forums show the divide clearly. How to Kill Jerusalem Artichokes generates 40,000 search results. Where to Buy Jerusalem Artichokes generates 12,000. The plant itself never disappeared. The nutritional capacity, the 400-pound annual yield, the 20-year lifespan, all unchanged. The only thing that vanished was the story of what it is. Same plant Lewis and Clark ate. Different name, different meaning. Return to Highway 40. Same cracked pavement. Same green stalks pushing through asphalt in defiance of county spray schedules. Now you see what it actually is. 400 pounds of carbohydrates per year, per plant. 20-year productive lifespan. Zero fertilizer requirements. Survives Midwest winters that kill annual crops. Classified as a noxious weed. Sprayed with herbicides. Absent from grocery stores. Present in farmers' market bins at premium prices when available. Native American communities in the Great Lakes region still harvest it traditionally, maintaining seed stock and preparation knowledge that never entered the mainstream agricultural system. No health advice, just economic clarity. The system that feeds millions is the system that determines what millions know about what grows in their own yards. The question isn't why you don't know about it. The question is who profits from you not knowing. The sunchoke never disappeared. It's still out there, growing in ditches, spreading through cracks, and waiting for the November frost to sweeten it, just as it has for 5,000 years. Same plant, different labels. It's a story shaped by economic interests, not efficiency or nutrition. The system doesn't want it, but the sunchoke keeps growing, and the knowledge remains. Don't let the truth be buried. Share this knowledge and see the sunchoke in a new light.